Welcome to the session by Azure Developer Community. So we'll be looking into Introduction to Azure Static Web Apps. Hi, my name is Harshavardhan Bajoria. I'm Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Beta and I've cracked 6 Microsoft certifications, out of which 2 of them are of associate level, which is Data Scientist and AI Engineer. I have been an intern at Geeks for Geeks and Prep for Tech. Here are my LinkedIn and GitHub IDs in case you wish to connect with me. Before we move on, let's have a look at some of the prerequisites which will help you better understand the topic that we will be looking into and have a hands-on demo with us while we are having it. So first of all, you'll be needing a basic knowledge about HTML and CSS because the code that we'll be having for the resume, which is being hosted by creating a web app, will be having the code in HTML and CSS. In case you do not have it right now, no issues. We have added comments over there so that you can understand what are the changes that you need to make it your own resume. You can also check out about CSS and HTML after this session. We have just used the basic concepts over there. You need to have a basic knowledge about Git so that you can understand how we are creating commits and pushing the changes into the remote repository. In this case, we'll be using a GitHub as our remote repository. So you need to have a GitHub account. We'll be also having GitHub actions into the play, which will be creating workflows. So we'll be looking into it a bit later. Finally, you need to have a Microsoft Azure Active subscription and Visual Studio Code installed in your local system so that you can create your web app on your own. I think all of you will get this prerequisites done, and let's move on. So our agenda for today, we'll be having a quick introduction, understanding, and looking into a scenario so that you can better relate with the use case of the Azure Static Web App. Next, using that particular use case, you'll understand what is Azure Static Web App. Plan it, understand its key features, know what are the requirements and where it can be used. And finally, have a hands-on exercise to deploy your app. So I think all of you are ready to begin. So let's begin. So let's imagine a scenario. In case, like if we take a general scenario, all of you will be working in a company or an organization or is currently working in it. Now, let's say your company is planning to launch a web app for its products. The manager comes and asks you to be in charge of it and launch the web app. There are some of the basic requirements. The site should be allowed to have the consumers edit, add, view, and remove items as per their needs. It should be a lag-free experience for them and it should be user-friendly. It should ensure customer privacy, which is, I think, the main goal of each and every organization that's out there. And therefore, the site and the APIs that you will be using should be as secured as possible. It should be encrypted too, so that there's no leakage of the customer data. Next, it should provide great performance to all the users globally that's out there. It might happen that your company has a large reach and the products will be purchased by consumers across the globe. So it should be able to provide a hindrance-free and without any downtime experience to your users. And finally, as a developer or an administrator, you would love to have minimization of the infrastructure work so that you don't need to handle a lot of infrastructure, which includes web servers, database, virtual machines, and many more stuff. This will allow you to be more efficient while developing the solution and reviewing it so that you can create more solutions as per the consumer demands. Now, if you think closely, you might think of 2 solutions for this. First, a conventional method in which you will get the database, servers, and everything that's required, host it in the cloud, host the web in the cloud. Next, to get the customer privacy secured, you will get SSL certificate. Next, you will get the CI/CD pipelines, created and manage it, and many more. This will involve a lot of tasks, a lot of efforts and cost for you, which will, in the end, reduce your efficiency while building the app. Now let's have a look at the second way, which is using the service of Azure Static Web Apps. This service by Microsoft Azure will help you get started easily without worrying about the infrastructure and help you increase your efficiency a lot. Azure Static Web Apps helps us solve the infrastructure problems all the way from our source code to global availability. As part of its PaaS offerings, which is Platform as a Service, it allows us to stay focused on developing our application while it takes care of the infrastructure which is required. When we create an Azure Static Web App resource, Azure sets up a GitHub Actions, which we'll be looking into the future, or use Azure DevOps pipeline connected with your app's repository. The workflow manages and monitors our choices as soon as it's made. Every time we make a push to the branch connected with the web app, the workflow automatically builds and deploys our app and its API into Azure. As you can see over here, the static content, which is HTML images and CSS, is present to the users globally and distributed. You can also leverage the action of APIs using Azure Functions. Azure Functions powers the backend API functionality, which provides automatic scaling out and scaling in based on our demand. Azure Static Web Apps are ideal for serving purely static content, but can be a great support for static content that needs API too, using your preferred web framework, whether it be React, Vue.js, Angular, or your static content generators like Gatsby or Hugo. Now you have known what is Azure Static Web Apps and the scenario where it can be used. Let's look at some of its key features. Some of its key features include globally distributed web hosting. With the help of zones and regions, it allows us to make our static content along with the images more close to the end users. It has the support for integrated APIs using Azure Functions. This helps us get more functionality to a particular web app that we are hosting in the cloud. It also provides us with SSL certificates, which adds encryption and safety to our network and is available for free with the web app. It gets renewed automatically, so you don't need to worry about it. It adds Azure DevOps and first class integration for you so that you don't need to worry about the updates that needs to be made to the Azure Static Web App. It will automatically trigger build and deployment whenever there is a change in the repository or the branch which is connected to the web app. Finally, there is a presence of unique preview URLs for previewing the pull request. This will help you preview the pull request before merging it into the main repository so that there is no false information or disturbance for your end users. These are some of the amazing features that come with Azure Static Web Apps, and this will definitely help you focus on building and innovating the solution with Azure. Now, let's have a look at how to deploy a simple resume which we have prepared using Azure Static Web Apps. So first of all, you need to go to this link, which is https github.com/my-id Bajoria, and then you can go to the introduction to Azure Static Web App repository. I would not suggest you to clone this repository because then the link to the remote repository will also get cloned, and this can lead to some issues. And for keeping this particular session beginner friendly, will suggest that you can go to the particular folder, for example, documents, create a new folder. Let's say I created naming resume. Then go to Visual Studio Code. Click on File and then Open Folder. Next, click on the folder to open it. Currently, this folder is empty, which it should be. You can click on this new file option and type in index.html to create a new file and style.css for our styling. Next, you can go to this GitHub repo, open these two files in a new tab and copy the code. In case you know how to remove the clone, like remote repository link and add yours, please feel free to go ahead and clone the repository instead of copying and pasting it. We are just using it so that the beginners can understand. Now let's have a brief overview of what the code is about. So if you look at the code, over here we have added comments so that you can understand where you need to make changes to make it your own resume. Over here you can add your name. You can replace the name thing over here, add your title. If you go down, you can check that it says add your contact details. So you can replace your email ID over here, change and add your GitHub and LinkedIn links. Add your education, add your skills, add additional links or activities or details that you have done. Add a short description telling about yourselves, your vision and skills. Add your work experience and achievements. You can also go to style.css to make some changes with the styling. So it's done. When you have made all the changes that you want to in your particular file, which will be hosted, you can go and check it out before deploying it. So for that, go to the repository, click on the file, and it should show you how it looks. So it's perfectly fine. It's always highly recommended to first of all check whether the website that you're going to host using Azure Static Web App is working fine in your local system or not, because it might happen that it's not working in your local system and there is a very high chance that it will not work in the cloud too. So it's working fine in our local system, so it's good to deploy. So first of all, the first step to deploy Azure Static Web App is to make a local repository. For that, you can click on Terminal, then click on New Terminal. You need to have Git installed in your local system and then type in git init to initialize an empty Git repository. Next, you need to add it to the staging area. So git add and then git commit. So this will add the files to your Git repository. You can check this using git log and it's done. So we have the local repository ready. Next, we'll be needing an extension for Visual Studio Code, which is Azure Static Web Apps. So go to this extensions tab, which is present over here, which is like blocks. Click on it and search in the search tab, Azure Static Web Apps. Click on the option of Azure Static Web App and you'll see an option to install in case it's not already installed in our system. Click on it and you can check out its different features over here, which its mainly task is to help you run and debug your static web app. If you are a professional, you can click on the start free option to sign up today for a free Azure account and receive a 12-month popular services. And in case you are a student, you can go ahead and check this out, which is Azure for Students, which will help you get free credits along with no credit card requirement. Okay, so once this is done, once this is installed successfully, you will see an option of Azure added over here. Click on it. In my case, it's showing me a key and a subscription name, Visual Studio Enterprise Subscription. But if you're using it for the first time, it will ask you or show an option to sign in into Azure. Click on it, enter your credentials, and you'll be signed in. Once you are signed in, you will be shown a subscription like this, which is Visual Studio Enterprise subscription or Azure for Student subscription. You can click on the subscription and see the different resources that you have. If you want to have a look at a particular resource that you have in your subscription, you can click on it. For example, I had already hosted this web app, so I can see that my resume web app is present over here. Now, how to create a static web app? Click on this plus icon, which is to create a resource. You'll get an option to create a static web app. Click on it. You need to enter a unique name for your static web app over here. So let's say I type in resume. Next, press enter. You need to enter a unique name for your GitHub repository where the source code will be hosted. So I'm typing it resume again. Next, you need to choose a region for your Azure Functions API and the staging environments. It should be a region where majority of your consumers are present. So in our case, it's India, so I'll be choosing East Asia for now. Next, you need to choose a framework which your app is particularly using. You can choose from different options of Angular, React, Vue, Next.js, or static site generators like VuePress and Gatsby. But in our case, it's a simple HTML and CSS static content website, so we'll be going to custom. You need to add in your application location of your application code. For example, in case of React, it should be /app as it's hosted over there. But in our case, let's go with / because it's represent the root of our app. Finally, you need to enter a build folder which is relative to your app's location that you had entered previously. In our case, there is no build present, so we'll keep it blank. But in case of React, for example, you need to type in build, which is present inside the app folder. Press enter to confirm, and it will start creating a new private GitHub repository. Why private? So that no one else can see the source code and make any changes over there without your permission or copy it. And next, it will copy the source code into the GitHub repository and start creating the web app. So we can go over here to our GitHub repository. So let me go to my GitHub repository and show you. So as you can see, a resume named repository has been created, which is private over here. Click on it. You can see the source code, which was index.html and style.css file added. Next, you can go to the action step to see the workflow that is happening to build your particular web app, as I told you during the presentation. Let's have a look on how it's working in the background. So if we click on it, we can see it's currently building it. You can see some messages which is coming along. So these messages are the background processes that's running behind to successfully deploy your app in the Azure. If you see this error message, which is could not detect the language from repo, don't worry, that won't hinder your process. It just means that while getting the language or understanding it, it was not able to get it from the repo. And it's successfully deployed. We should see a green tick coming soon. Yes, a green tick is there, so it's successfully deployed. To browser side, you can go to your extension, click on Visual Studio Code, and then Static Web Apps. We should see your static web app hosted over here with the name resume. In case it doesn't show up, click on this refresh option, which will refresh it. Right click and click on browse site to browse the site that you've hosted right now. And it's hosted. So anyone with this particular link, which is present over here, can see the website. Also, as I told you, it has SSL certificate added automatically. So you can see over here, it has a encrypted sign and it says connection is secure with certificate is valid. In case you need to get more details about your web app that's hosted, you can just right click and click on open in portal. This will open the details or the static web app in the Azure portal. So as you can see, it's hosted. You can click on it to get the source code, get the deployment history, get the URL from here. You can even go and add custom domains as per your requirements. So it's up to 2 for free and up to 5 for standard hosting plan. You can check the APIs. In case your application is using Azure Functions, you can get the application insights by going to this tab. You can get a look at the environments and finally change the hosting plan, which will allow you to get more features of identity, private endpoints, and enterprise grade edge. So this is how the web app hosting works. Now, there's one more feature, like I told you that it automatically goes and updates the changes whenever we make it into the main remote repository, which can be the branch connected to the web app. So let's have a look and understand how it's happening behind the scenes. So first of all, if you want to see the code, you can click over here and check out the Azure static web app.yml file. So over here, this is the code. If you want to make any changes on how automatically workflows is getting created, you can make the changes over here. As you can see, on any push or any pull request which is happening inside the remote repository for the branch that's connected, it will automatically create and deploy a workflow as per this particular code which is present over here and close it when it's successfully done. Let's not make it more complex by going into this code and see a practical example. So for example, I just change and add my name over here and add my title and save it. So for it to be visible in the remote repository, obviously I need to push it. So for that, click on terminal and new terminal. First of all, stage the commit and now commit the changes that we have made. Okay. Now you need to push it. So for that, the command is git push. So as you can see over here, it hasn't pushed into the remote repository. Now if we go into the remote repository and check out, so yes, okay, this is not the repository, this one is the remote repository. So if you go and check out, it says name and title added. So yes, the changes has been made. Now it should have an automatic workflow to incorporate those changes, and yes, a workflow has already begun. So let's have a look at it. So it's currently building and redeploying our app. It will hardly take a minute or two. So let's just wait a second. In case you do not want it to happen automatically for all the pull requests or all the changes that has been made, you can simply go ahead and change this .git under the .github file workflows Azure static web app YML file. So you can change this file over here as per your demand or as per your needs. So we have got a green tick over here. Now if I go and as a consumer just refresh the page, it will automatically incorporate these changes without having any downtime or any lag for the user. And this is how this particular Azure, this is how you can leverage Microsoft Azure static web app for your own needs and deploy your app easily without worrying about the infrastructure it's required or the customer privacy. Hope you like this session and got to learn. You can free. Thank you for joining in.